Hello, hello! Welcome back to Brenda's Books. Thank you so much for coming back to listen to more of Sara's War. If you would like to follow Brenda's Books online, I am on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And today we are on Chapter 27. Here we go. Chapter 27. Take Me to the Blood. Relief and fear crash through me, but I force my mind to find some clear thoughts. I rush over to where the driver lies. He grasps his deltoid near his shoulder. Blood is dripping through his fingers, but not too much. Automatically, I check his pulse and his breathing. Both are okay. He will live. I glance at the foreign man on the floor. I cringe at the sight of him. Definitely dead. Now who else has been shot? My limbs shake as I struggle to stand and peer out the window. Another wave of relief rushes through my lungs when I see Jack, alive as ever, standing near the doorway. He's holding a beige-skinned mohawked man in a death grip. He yanks him by the ear, cranking his neck to one side. The man struggles to get his hands on Jack, reaching for his gun, but Jack snaps his shoulder out of its socket. I gasp aloud and the man lets out a shriek. Immediately, I gasp again. About 30 yards behind Jack, I see the victim of the first shot lying on the ground. He's a stocky blonde. Sam. Even from here, I can see his chest oozing with blood. I leap over the driver and the dead man and jump down the steps to exit the bus. But before I can make it to the ground, Jack calls out, "Stay in the bus, Andrews!" His voice is strained from exertion of holding the thrashing man. "There's a man down!" I call back at him. Jack shoots me a furious glare. "That's an order!" he shouts as he begins dragging his fumbling foe down the dirt road. Okay then. I leap back up the stairs. Trying to keep my body away from the direct line of the open doorway, I reach out my arms and pull the lever to shut the door. A screeching noise itches my ears, but the door doesn't shut. Blast. "Pull open the gate, Stein," I hear Jack say through my radio. "I've got our first prisoner." "Roger that," says a static voice. Oh, didn't Jack see Sam lying out there? He's going to die! I stare at my trembling hands. My body must still be in shock. I turn to check on the driver, who's now sitting up in the aisle, his back resting against the seats. More blood trickles down his arm. It's difficult to ignore the disturbing dead body near the stairs, but I manage to grab the emergency first aid kit from under the front seat. I yank it open and drag out a long cotton swathe and wrap it several times around the driver's arm, then quickly secure it with the sewn-in fasteners. "The bullet looks like it's close to the surface," I tell him. "It should be safe to take out, but we'll have to wait until we're in a more stable place." "You're going to be fine," I assure him. The man nods. "I'd be dead if it weren't for Colonel Haskins," he mumbles. "He pulled that man back just in time to mess up his aim." "I'm glad to hear it," I declare, as I reach for some disinfectant wipes and scrub off the blood on the man's hands and arm as best I can. "I was a fool and left my gun on the seat behind me," he explains. He seems to be talking more to himself than to me. "Well, you'll be fine," I console, as I grab another disinfectant to wipe my own hands with. I lock the first aid kit back together and stand up, holding it by its square handle. I peer out at Sam again, still lying there with no assistance. I scan the roadside for any danger, but see none. I let out a slow sigh, which turns out to be more of a growl. When can I go help him? "This is outrageous!" I exclaim out loud. I sit down on the closest seat and stare out the window. It's only now that I pay attention to the murmurings around me. Why would someone come onto a bus full of enemies? The guy's an idiot. He deserves what he got. There's an outrageous gasp. "Are you saying that everyone who dies deserves it? You are the idiot," exclaims an angry voice. Fabulous. I rub my temples with both hands. There's a man outside bleeding to death, and we're in here arguing about who's an idiot. Then I see 4 U.S. soldiers come out of the thicket, dragging 2 spies along with them. One spy is bawling. He definitely looks way too young. The other is screaming in another language, but I'm pretty sure they're profanities. Jack follows closely behind them all. His countenance appears completely passive. What on earth is going on? Hey, wait a minute, there's something different about that pistol. I twist my head around and see the beady-eyed guy crouched by the mohawked man. He picks up the fallen pistol and examines it slowly. This is a camera. What? Several voices exclaim. He took a picture? What good would that do? Says a woman. I don't know, says Beady-Eyed. Everyone is conversing now, and a few more people walk over to examine the pistol. I pull my eyebrows together with my fingers. This information would be fascinating to me if I wasn't so nervous. Whoa, I guess we better move this one, says a sassy voice at the doorway. It's Lexi. I stand and take one stride over to the top of the stairs as Lexi hauls the dead man out of the bus. With one great heave, she dumps him onto the ground. I grimace. Oh, hey there, Doc, Lexi calls. How did it go over here? I stare at her in astonishment. How is it possible for her to be cheerful at the moment? Lexi, what is going on? I ask with some edge in my voice. They talked. Well, kind of. Not completely, Lexi says as she hops up the stairs. Actually, the only real information we have is because Jack already knew it. But we're done for now. I exhale impatiently. I do want to find out more about that, but right now there is a soldier dying. Does anybody care there's a man down? I exclaim incredulously. Where? Lexi wonders, furrowing her brow. With one huge movement, I point toward Sam with both my arms. Right there! Lexi spins around to where I'm pointing. Oh, she says in surprise. Well, go help him. I've been ordered to stay in the bus, I say through my teeth. Lexi snatches her radio from her belt. Colonel Haskins, Oxford here. There's a man down and the doctor is antsy. Take her to him, says Jack's voice through the radio. And keep watch. Roger that, Lexi says readily. Let's go, Doc, she exclaims, leaping over all 3 steps at once. With my first aid kit still in hand, I leap after her and we both dash to Sam's unmoving body. I think he's still breathing, Lexi cries when we reach him. Sam's chest looks like a volcano of blood has just erupted from it. As quickly as I can, I snap open the first aid kit and slap on the first latex gloves I see and immediately press a palm over the open gunshot wound. Then a hand touches my shoulder. Randy is crouched beside me. How can I help? He asks as he snatches another pair of gloves from the kit. I wait to answer until I finish checking Sam's pulse. It's slow and sluggish, but at least his heart is still beating. Help me put more pressure here, I say. Randy immediately presses a hard hand next to mine. Good, don't lose the pressure, I order. Randy presses down harder. Sergeant, are you okay? I inquire as I fumble through the first aid kit with my free hand. No response. Sam, I say, open your eyes if you can hear me, I command, as I continue to rummage through various cloth dressings. I got it, says Lexi as she squats by the kit and hands me a thick bandage. Thank you, I say, as I see Sam's eyes flicker open and then close again. Good, Sam, stay with me, you hear me? Sam's breathing is short and shallow. I can feel the air from his lungs trying to escape through the lesion. That has got to hurt. Breathe deeply, Sam, I tell him. Even with Randy and I both pressing firmly, blood is still escaping around the edges of our hands, and I know it will be the same with any type of bandage. Reynolds, I need some quick clot, and fast, I command. You got it, Randy says readily. He jumps to his feet and sprints to the medical aid truck, not 30 yards down the road. I inhale deeply, convincing myself that Sam will be okay. Randy isn't gone a minute before he returns with a bottle of quick clot. Thank you. Open it, please, and pour the powder in the wound, I demand. Randy obeys and I get up to my knees. As soon as the last dust of powder falls, I press both my hands on the wound, pushing as much of my weight onto it as possible. Randy follows my lead and does the same with one hand close to mine. In 5 minutes, I say to Randy, we need to put an airtight bandage on him. 3 sides only. Why don't I get a pressure point? He asks, putting 3 fingers on Sam's bicep. It won't help with the torso, I explain. Sam, can you still hear me? I say loudly. Instead of Sam's response, the static radio starts talking again. Colonel Haskins, can we move? Calls the voice of Grimes. Not yet, answers Jack. I'm surprised to hear his voice close to me. I look up to see him standing at Sam's feet. He returns my gaze but speaks into his radio. Dr. Andrews is not quite done. Sam, open your eyes if you can hear me, I demand. Sam opens his eyes more fully this time. They look as red as the blood on his chest. Uh-oh. Good, Sam. We're going to take care of you, okay? Pretty soon your breathing won't hurt as much. Sam licks his lips and closes his eyes again. The quick clot works just as well as I hope, and I'm able to bandage up the wound easily, while Randy fetches me a gurney. When he returns, the two of us wipe down the victim, as well as ourselves, with disinfectants. I cannot believe how much blood is on me. All right, let's get him up, I say. I'll help with that, Jack offers. I step out of the way while the two men lift Sam onto the gurney. Jack turns to face me now. He reaches down to his belt and releases an empty holster and hands it to me. For your gun, he explains. Oh, I say, taking the holster. Thank you. Will the sergeant be all right until Bridgetown? Jack inquires, as Randy starts rolling Sam toward the medical aid truck. How much longer will that be, I wonder. About 4 or 5 hours, Jack replies. I stifle a groan. He might make it, but he has probably lost more than half his blood. He needs a transfusion. It would be best if he didn't have to wait that long, I explain. Jack purses his lips. How long will the transfusion take? He asks. It depends, but probably a couple of hours, if you include all the preparation, I reply. He could very well have other complications too. He's going to need constant attention for a while. Jack nods and glances toward the buses, and then back at me. He looks worried, but I'm not sure it's about Sam. Permission to speak, sir? Lexi says. She has been so quiet this whole time I almost forgot she's still with us. It's strange to hear her address Jack so formally. This woman must know how things work in the army much better than I do. Go ahead, Jack allows. Captain Barnett and his company are close by. We could ask them to join us to help us with anything you need. Lieutenant Grimes and the rest of his platoon could carry on to Bridgetown and get a head start there. Jack flashes Lexi a look of admiration. Excellent, Oxford. And then he turns to me. We'll set up camp here tonight. Get started on the transfusion, he commands, and immediately turns around and walks briskly toward the caboose bus. Yes, sir, I say to his back. Grimes, Jack speaks into his radio. A word, please. On my way, sir, replies the static voice. And then Jack turns around but continues to walk backward. Oxford, he calls to Lexi. Yes, sir? Find the doctor a firearm and teach her how to use it, he orders. I will, sir. And with that he spins around and lengthens his stride in the opposite direction. I sigh heavily. Lexi steps up to me and puts a hand on my shoulder. Relax, Doc. You won't have to use it. And that concludes Chapter 27. I hope you join me next Thursday for Chapter 28, which is called You Should Have. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope you had a great time playing jokes on April Fool's Day. It's always a good time. If you want to find out more about Brenda's books, you can visit brendasbooks.net. Until next time, take care.